So in episode 7, and we are now at episode 8, Nakia and Jody brought up a topic, and they said that, with the world changing so fast right now, you got to be able to adapt or to pivot, and which leads us to today's topic. So Jody, if you could go ahead and carry on and tell us what your insight is in regards to when it's time to adapt or to pivot, please take the microphone away.
All right. Well, I think, and I can think back to just my life and probably a lot of other people, but we have to adapt a lot of times at an early age, and we don't even realize what we're doing. If I think back, way back, that was my whole life. It was just complete adaptability. And then when I was in the military, I never knew what to expect when I got to work. We always had to shift. We always had to do things differently. It did get to a point in my military career where I felt like I was being pulled in a whole different direction. And I kind of just started going with that. And I think that is a really important thing, because a lot of us fight that intuition, whatever you want to call it, that gut feeling. And that's why probably about 70% of the people are miserable where they are right now, if you look at it. And it's also why a lot of people were completely just blown away by what's going on in the economy right now, because they had not allowed themselves to adapt previously. Because honestly, even though this is a little bit different than probably just about anything else that we've encountered in my life anyway, it's not anything different in the whole entirety, right? Like we encounter things all the time that make us have to shift. So I think, just like I said earlier, just becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable is so super important, because when we are in that comfort zone, we don't allow ourselves to grow. We don't allow ourselves to pursue what we probably are meant to do in our lives. And we don't allow ourselves to be in groups like this because we own our own businesses, because that fear has kept us from doing that. So being able to step outside of that is just huge, and being able to adapt and go with the change, because even when we start businesses, my business is nothing that it was when I started it. And that's a good thing though, because I'm able to pour into people a whole lot more than I ever allowed myself to do in the beginning. So just that adaptability, being resilient, being able to pivot, like you said, and just shift when we need to shift. We never know what we're going to encounter on a daily basis. So we have to just be able to continue to go.
I mean, that's awesome. That is so true. And we actually had to do that with this group. We started at meeting at a restaurant on day 1, and we adapted to doing a conference call. And then now we're doing these Zoom meetings. So for me, when do I determine when it's time to adapt? In the private equity world, there are several variations that we go over whenever the board of directors decides to make pivotal changes in the organization. But the 2 most important components that we look into are technology and human capital behavior. Now, according from Moore's law, the technology changes every 18 to 24 months. But as the chip gets smaller, the technology gets faster while the internet world speeds up. So in the past 5 years, Moore's law technology advancement has dropped down to 9 to 12 months. So as a company, we have to adapt our tools, whether it be our website, applications, ERM systems, CRM platforms, and many more tech gadgets, including social media. And when we make technology changes, believe it or not, the human capital, aka the culture behavior, changes as well. So we have to adapt or pivot along with both components. First technology. Then after that, we observe the human behavior, such as like, are the staff members keeping up? Are the employees willing to learn the new platforms? Who do we cut? Who do we keep? So whenever we have to decide when it's time to make changes or to pivot, we dig into these two basic components: technology and human capital behavior. And that's pretty much, you know, our thing here in our firm is whenever we decide that it's time to adapt or make changes.
So I think a good indicator of when it's time to pivot is when you actually feel stuck. Because I think a lot of times we get like so fixated on this one outcome for a situation where we think that maybe the only way that we could get there is if we did it this one certain way. And since we get stuck there and we can't do it that way, then we're like, well, I guess I'm just never going to get there. And so I think when you're stuck is a good time to be like, wait, what other options are available? You know, like Nakia was saying, think outside of the box. Think of something that you've never thought of before. Go and use your imagination and be creative. And that is just a great indicator and a good time to start sitting down with a notepad and just start brainstorming of what other possibilities are really there right in front of you.
And once again, I know Nakia brought this up last week, and this is the beauty of having these organizational board brainstorming meetings, because we all can bounce off ideas with each other and see what's really going out there in the community. You know, Heidi, you might see it this way, but if Mark's community is not seeing it this way, well, how can we synergize all of that knowledge and wisdom so we all can move along with the economy? You know, what we're doing right now is no different than what we did yesterday in our board meeting. Is we talk about things, we talk about the problems, we talk about issues, and then now we can move along and find out where we should put our focus and energy into. So what we're doing right now is no different than a board meeting, you know, except we all don't work for each other. But what we're doing here is we're sharing knowledge. You know, and that's something that is not free out there, but yet you've got experienced and seasoned folks here that are sharing their knowledge with us. So I am very grateful for you guys coming and providing us the knowledge that we need to keep our community and your business going. Anyone else want to chime in? Fire away.
Yeah, I would just say knowing when to change is sometimes difficult, because you could have a situation where if you don't change, you're going to be left behind. I've run into a lot of people who, to use an analogy, let's say water boils at 212 degrees and you're at 210, you've been working your butt off for year after year after year, and you're at 210 and you say, the heck with it, I'm never going to get there. You don't realize how close you are, that you're one contact away or one call away to exploding your business. So I think it's always rough to know when it makes sense to change and when it doesn't. I'd say the big key is just don't be fearful of change. I look at change as a good thing. It's my willingness to realize there's new circumstances, so I have to behave differently. So I would say also getting advice from peers, like people in this group, et cetera, who will give you their honest, unbiased opinion, is also good input as far as just letting them know what you're doing, what's not working, what is working. People like Jody, for instance, people like Heidi, who are coaches, that they can say, hey, look, man, you're doing a lot of things correctly. You're just leaving out this one thing. So it might not have to be a major change, but just a minor change can make all the difference. But I think the key is at least being willing to change and open to change and being open to getting other people's feedback.
Constructive criticism. I think if we can really hone that down, it's constructive criticism.